Welcome back to my video tutorials, and in this tutorial we're going to take a look at functions in Python. Functions are pretty useful when you want to repeat sections of code and reuse them, so this is all about code reuse, and as usual we'll just dive straight in there and we'll give you some examples. So to define a function in Python we do something like this. And all we're going to do is a very simple one. We're just going to print hello. So we'll call our function say hello. And within there, we are just going to say print hello. Pretty boring stuff. And then what we can do within our code, we can just call say hello function. So what this is going to do when we call this bit of code there, it's going to jump up to our function and hopefully it will just print hello. Let's give that a go. You can see that down there in the shell. Indeed, we've done it. Pretty basic stuff. And we can wrap code around this. So we should get this to print hello Tom, and you get the idea. So on the first pass through this program, these two lines are really ignored. That's just the definition of the function. It's not going to do anything until we actually call the function there. Okay, straightforward. Let's get a bit more advanced. So one of the things we can do is we can pass parameters into functions. And a parameter is a variable that we define locally within the function. So if we do something like define a parameter called n, which will pass into this function, and remember from our previous lesson we looked at loops. N. In fact, we don't need that. So you should all know what this is going to do. So we're going to loop round n times and print the word hello. So this time when we call the function say hello, we need to pass that parameter n, and we should hopefully print hello that number of times. If you remember from looking at ranges, we'll go from 1. So if we'll go from 1 up to n minus 1, we won't go all the way up to n, so it's not inclusive. So we'll just add 1. So if we pass 5 into the function, then we'll print 5 times. So that's the idea of that. So in fact, let's try that with 5. So what this should do is call the function, pass in the number 5, we'll have a loop go in 5 times and we'll print hello. Let's see if that works. And there you go. So that's our first function. This one is pretty useless, so let's do something a bit more meaningful. So what we're going to do, we're going to write a function where we pass in 2 numbers, and we're going to get the function to tell us which number is the larger. So going back to your ifs that I'm sure you'll remember, what we're going to do at the beginning actually, we're going to set up a result and set that to 0. So this is what we're going to pass back, and I'll come on to that in a moment. So we set result to 0, we say if A is greater than B, then result is A, else B must be greater than A, so we're going to assume they're not the same. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to pass in 2 numbers, check if A is greater than B, set the result to A, set the result to B, And at the end, we are going to return result. So what return is going to do, that's going to pass the value back to where we call the function. So I'll explain what that means. So if you remember, this code will get ignored until we actually call max. So let's do x equals max, and we'll pass in 3 and 4. And we'll say largest is x plus converted to a string. You should remember that from lesson 1 or 2, I think. So we're going to pass 3 and 4, and hopefully it should tell us that the largest number that we're passing in is 4. Oh, I forgot my cola at the end of ours. Okay, and there you go. Indeed it does. So let's try it with 10 and 1. So it should tell us that the largest number is 10. And what we could then do, we could get 2 numbers from the user. So we could say num1 equals input into first number, and 2 is enter second number, remember we'll need to convert these to integers because there will be strings. In fact, we're going to miss this step. If you remember, we did that before where we had n and then n int. So we can just do it in one step and say when we get the number from the user as a string, convert it to an int straight away. And we can do that in one line like this. So we're going to get the number and immediately convert it to an integer, and we'll store that in num1 and num2. And then we're going to say x is the maximum of num1 and num2. And we'll print the largest is string x. So let's give that a go, and I'll come back and explain it. So into the first number 66, the second number 44, the largest is 66. We'll just try it again just to make sure. 11, 22, and the largest is 22. Okay, quite useful. So you can see how you can use functions to reuse code. While I'm here, I'm going to show you a different kind of syntax to this. So we visited print in every lesson, I think, and we've always used this concatenation operator. There is another way to do this, which is to use this. This is just another way of formatting. So if you've used C programming, you'll be familiar with this. So what we're going to do here, it's the same kind of thing. We're going to keep all the string together, and we're going to just use that %d. And that is going to be replaced by this x. So you'll notice this new syntax here of % and x and bracket x bracket. And we can do this more than once. So we could string these together, and we could have y and we could have z. And then across in here, we could do another %d and another %d and so on. So the number of %d's corresponds to what we're passing in. So in our example, we've only got 1. And that should actually just give us the same result. So it saves us having to convert strings to ints and ints to strings. So %d is a digit or a number, and conversely we could use %s to denote that it's a string that we're passing back. So I just thought I'd mention that. Again, you can read around this. Print's powerful, as I mentioned before, but let's just run that just to check it works. It does. The largest number is 6. We'll try it where the first number is larger, just to make sure. The largest number is 77. Okay, so a useful little function there. So as I always say, have a play. I was thinking what I'll do now, I'll set you an exercise and I'll cover the solution to the exercise in my next video. So what would be useful? Could you write a function that will receive, we'll call it triangle. It'll receive 3 parameters, which are the lengths of the triangle. So I'm just starting you off. And basically it will return the type of triangle based on the 3 lengths. So if A equals B and B equals C, then it's equilateral triangle, and so on. So if A isn't equal to B and B isn't equal to C, this isn't code, by the way, I'm just writing this in sort of English or pseudocode. So if they're all different, then that type of triangle is called a scalene triangle. And there's another one where if 2 sides are equal, so if A and B are equal, or A and C are equal, or B and C are equal, and the other is different, then that will be an isosceles. And you get extra marks if you can remember how to spell isosceles, because I can't. So there you go. So write a function that receives 3 values, which are the lengths of a triangle, and get it to return either equilateral, isosceles, or scalene based on the numbers that we're passing in, which are the lengths of each side of the triangle. So I hope that makes sense. I'll give you the solution in my next video, which will be video number 5. I'll cut it there because I like to keep these to about 10 minutes. And as I always say, have a play, try and do that short exercise, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll catch you all soon. Thank you.